Great Friday evening, everybody. How's everybody doing this evening?
I
Great
am
Friday
well.
evening, everybody. Sorry about the feedback.
Yeah, yeah.
Are we good now?
Yeah, we good. How's everybody
Okay.
doing, man?
All right. I am well. How about yourselves? What's going on, fellas?
Hey, man.
Well, I'm all right. I mean, I've been busy this week. A little headache, but I'm all right.
Okay. All right. All right. Very good. Listen, welcome. Great to see everybody. Great to see everybody. And great Friday evening to everybody. Welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast. Again, I am one of your hosts, Coach Dwayne Dwyer. With me, I have Mr. Roland Walker, the minister. And I also have Mr. Chris McClellan from Chris from across the table. I like to call him Chris from the other side of the table. These young men love the.
See, y'all doing all this. I got to get me a little moniker, man.
Listen, man, it is great to see everybody on this Friday evening. Listen, I want to ask this question, serious, real talk. Does anybody have any family members that have been affected by, Hurricane Ian?
I have friends,
Okay,
you know,
all right, friends, family members. Sorry about
yeah,
that.
but mostly like rain and wind, but nothing serious.
Okay.
So
Okay. Good. I apologize about that. Listen, for everybody who is listening, again, welcome to the show, and thank you everybody who is, joining us this evening. Michelle Ray, good to see you. Uncle Junior, always pleasure to see you. Check your email, sir. And for everybody else who I have not had the pleasure of observing yet, give me a second. I will be able to set my eyes on you, and I want to personally thank you as well. Welcome to the show. Listen. For everybody who, again, if you have family members and everything, family members, friends, whatever the case may be, that's affected by Hurricane Ian, I pray that everything is fine. My hearts and prayers goes out to everybody who is experiencing some difficulties because of that tragic storm. Um, on this evening, we want to talk from the perspective of, again, talk from the perspective of it's okay to ask for help. Now, listen, again, we talked about this previously. This show is for men. However, come, I want to make sure I'm clearing this up. It's not just for men, it's for men, young boys, men who are being raised by women, women who want to understand men a little bit better. So it's for everybody. But trust me, the target audience is for young men so that they can actually become better because we're looking at, as TD Jakes like to say, Pastor Mike, right? So we're looking at passing the mic on to them so that they can actually become the pillars of what our society need and just be better for themselves, for their families, and things of that nature. And to kickstart this off, I kind of want to get a perspective going, and I want us to just, go into a little transparency on the panel here. So men are expected to do a lot. I mean, we showed a lot. Let's just be honest, right? We pretty much live under the concept that men are providers and protectors. I don't think that's like an epiphany to anyone. And to be an effective provider and protector, it includes a number of things. Things like showing strength, showing independence, being resilient, expressing empathy, and being a critical and creative thinker. All of that stuff must be packaged together perfectly, right? Resulting in the accomplishment of meaningful goals. So, for my illustrious members, I want to kickstart this off in this manner. If you could turn back the hands of time, reflecting on who you used to be, what would be something that you would actually ask for help, in?
go ahead, Chris.
That look, though.
What would, looking back, what would I have asked someone to help me with?
Yes.
Figuring out what I want to do and where I want to be, like
Hmm.
goal setting. I wish I had somebody that could actually sit me down and say, what do you want to do? Okay, you want to do this. What are the steps that you're willing to take to do it? Map it out and then hold me accountable to the plan. I never really had that. It was just me holding me accountable. So I wish I would have had that more than anything.
Dang, yours all deep. I was going straight to finances.
I mean,
I'm going.
it speaks to that, but I
Right.
mean,
I
that's
mean,
really
yeah,
where I
and I
would.
understand yours because yours would draw out because I think I was talking to one of my kids the other day, and they were saying how they are still looking for their passion in life. You know what they want to do in life, and I think that would lead to you actually having a passion when you're exposed to various things other than like because I grew up in the hood. Growing up in the hood, you exposed to your little few blocks, and you might go to the library, you might go to a museum while you're in school or whatever, but in a nutshell, your surroundings they make you.
I like that. I like that. I can't deny anything that you guys are saying right now because it's kind of in line with what I'm thinking. I think mine would be like, help me create this blueprint to this thing they call life. Like, I don't know, what I'm doing, to be honest with you. It's like you give me the keys to the car, but I never had driven a car before. And ideally, the way it should be, right? Ideally, the way it should be to the point to where we set the conditions. We understand what that looks like through watching, observing, and learning through osmosis, right? Ideally. Watch how my dad do stuff. Watch how my mom do stuff. Watch how they handle adversity. Watch how they handle bills. Watch how they handle other people as well. And then by looking at them and learning from them, I should be able to take that and package it in my own little way, and then project that as I become a young man. That also includes finances, Roland, and a number of other different things. So for me, I think that question would be like, help me create. I'm gonna stress that piece again. Help me create this blueprint to my life because I have no idea what the end state looks like, and because I don't know what the end state look like, then that's going to make it a little bit more difficult to do it. Because without that, I'm gonna try to mimic your life,
Mm.
and that's one of the issues that we run into, especially as parents, because when we don't know any better, what we try to do is make our child life look very similar to ours. And then it got to a certain point to where we learned, like, well, that's not the right thing to do. Your child have their own life; they're going to develop into something different. So what you do is you hold the space for them to figure that out. But there should be some injects throughout the way that kind of help them develop that within themselves. So that's kind of like where I'm going. Uncle Junior, welcome to the show, brother. Always good to have you. Just so that everybody know, Hurricane Ian told Uncle Junior he couldn't play football tonight, so he's with us. So, so welcome, brother.
Yeah, man. The funny thing about it is my son's my youngest son's name's Ian. And they was playing last night. He played defensive back and they started calling him Hurricane Ian last night.
That's what I'm talking about. Hopefully, he didn't hurt nobody kids while he was out there hurricaning, right?
Man, that joke keep getting penalty. He done had like 3 or 4 flags this year for like unnecessary roughness.
You
Oh,
playing
so your
football?
son is out there wrecking shop.
I know, right?
He like 6'2", 190. So he
Oh yeah. Whew.
defensive back, and it's like he out there like slamming people and stuff. So
Well, he
like,
can hurt the kids, just don't injure 'em.
yeah. So they
Yeah.
he done had like 3 or 4 flags this
Hey,
year. But
well, hopefully he's not 6'2", 190 playing Papa Warner. That would be
no,
scary.
no, he's 17. He's a senior. He's a senior in high school.
Okay, good,
Mhm.
good, good. I love it. Uncle Junior, just to bring you up to speed, man, we're talking about, talking to men. And again, talking to men, talking to young men, talking to moms who are raising young men, and, just anybody who wants to listen and learn from the perspective of men who have some experience in this. And the topic is, it's okay to ask for help. And the question that we started off with, if you could reflect back on your life, what would be that thing that you would ask for help in?
Um, the importance of relationships. I wish someone had told me, how important, how valuable relationships are. Even in the military for 20 years, you talk to people from here and there, but I don't think I really understood the value of it until I became probably like a staff sergeant, and then I've started really, really becoming in charge of soldiers. And, we go into the field for 30 days where you gotta get food, you gotta get a certain type of food for soldiers who may be have kosher meals, packing lists. It's just so many things that go into it. And then, when you can build those relationships with somebody over in the S1, somebody in S2, somebody at the motor pool, all these different places. Not saying that you get things, but people are more willing to work with you when they have a relationship with you. So I mean, we were raised in a Christian household, so we were taught, respecting people and stuff like this, but not necessarily like the true value of relationships and how important they are. So that's one thing that I wish I could turn back the hands of time with somebody to really school me on relationships and how to pick. You know what I mean? Some of the things to look out for, red flags and in friendships and different things like that as well, whether it be female or where somebody of the opposite sex, or whether it be somebody just a homeboy or something like that.
Man, you ain't got to be scared to say female on this platform.
Oh, I know. I'm just
We
saying.
call women women and men over here. No, let me stop. I ain't even gonna stop.
I don't want to open up no can.
Well, but I like where you went with it, right? Because I'm not going to say you intentionally avoided it, but I think that's important because as a young man, as a young guy, say it that way. My first relationship, obviously, is with my parents. But then when I started going into school and started dealing with classmates, things of that nature, I wasn't really looking for no boyfriend girlfriend relationship at that point in time. So understand how to maneuver space and create healthy relationships. And you probably witnessed it. Every one of you probably witnessed it growing up. Friends at that point, man, we was kind of crucial to one another, brother.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? We would just pick on people constantly. We talked about that a few weeks back.
Right.
But and there was some small trauma there, and it built some resiliency. But just getting to the point to where we started finding healthy relationships, where you start, that's my friend or that's my best friend, and understanding why that exists. Because one of the things I believe wholeheartedly, and I challenge a lot of adults when they say that now, oh, well, this person's my best friend. Well, how did they separate themselves from all the other ones to earn the title of best? So just understanding those things, just understanding that friendships are important. Networking is ultra important as well. And that's what you was talking about when you started talking about in the military, reaching out to the S1 shop. My best friend was the S4. So I got all the supplies. You know what I'm saying?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm sorry. You know what? I apologize, bro. So S1 is admin, S4 is supply. So based upon the relationships that we developed there, we got some insight when it comes down to some of the things that we need. So I probably got a good understanding of how to request supplies at an early age, early in my military career, because for whatever reason, I always flocked to the supply sergeant. And then when I started working the staff, I would flock to the S4 shop. So that's just kind of how that worked for me. And of
It's
course,
kind of like
S6.
knowing somebody in human resources, knowing somebody in the cafeteria. You know what I mean? To where you like, hey man, let me get a hookup on these fries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You
Oh,
just knowing people in different places of the overall company,
Yeah.
and building relationships, because you'll see it. People that don't have relationships sometimes, like they won't get nothing. They be like, man,
Struggle.
Star Martin, how you get that? I'm like, I asked. You
They
know,
struggle.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was it.
And the combo shop, I don't want to leave that out.
You can't
Yeah.
leave them
I'm
out.
a, oh, you was Como?
No, I was a medic, but
Oh, you was medic. Yeah.
if you were here when I was here, I would guarantee you that you would have known me because I was all over Fort Hood. Because if I needed something, I was taught by a leader. He said, "It's not about having what you need, as long as you know somebody who has what you need."
Yep.
And then I would talk to everybody. I would be at the hospital. I'd be across Fort Hood down this way. One time we took a bunch of vehicles down to San Antonio to Kelly Air Force Base to pick up a bunch of tents and everything because we were about to go to Hurricane Katrina happened, and we had to support down there in New Orleans. So I had to go pick up stuff from down there just from knowing people, just from talking to people. That was my thing. I was like, nah. People be like, well, you don't know how to do. Don't need to know how to do. I know somebody who does know.
So you was supporting Hurricane Trina while you was at Hood?
Yeah, we had to go down there to help out.
What year was that? Like 06, 05?
Man, what year was it? Yeah, around there. I don't know.
I was there at the same time. My unit supported too. I got a humanitarian service ribbon out of it.
Yeah.
I was aviation, so a lot of UH-60s and stuff was flying
from here? From Fort Hood?
From Fort Hood.
Okay, so you was over there with Kelly and them.
Kelly.
First time Kelly? Don't worry about it. We going off track.
Yeah, we way off.
Yeah.
I feel
because
left
that's
out.
we had to go over there to leave.
But so to going back to Roland's point, right?
Yeah.
Because we were in organization together, and when he showed up, one of the things I want to kind of touch on what he was saying, like that brother was easy to connect with. I mean, easy to connect with.
It's
It just
important.
seemed like, and that is important. It just seems like we vibed when we got together. So I think another part of the whole relationship piece is just being an easy person to talk to. And that's one of the things I think you guys can relate to. And Chris, I don't want to leave you out of this conversation, but a lot of times in organizations, what you will find is that people will hide behind their accolades, expecting their accolades to do the talking for them so that you can connect with them as opposed to them trying to connect with you. So that's another piece of the relationship piece that I'm glad you brought to the table.
Absolutely.
So, we kind of touched on it, right? And we kind of dived into some of the things. Well, one of the first things that we would actually um, request help based upon, because, we're all seasoned men on this panel here. Based upon your travels and conversations with other men, what are some of the things that you see that men struggle with that they should ask for help with, but they just because of pride or, being embarrassed, whatever, what does that look like? What are some of the things they struggle with?
Hmm.
I think being fathers.
Okay.
Men don't just. I think what we do is what what Uncle over here said earlier. I think it was him. He said something like of how what we do is we will tell our kids, well, it worked for me, so it'll work for you. It was good
Yeah.
enough for me, so it's good enough for you. And that's because what our parents did wasn't always right all the time.
Yeah.
But we end up rearing our kids the same way. And they in turn have the same patterns and behaviors that we had. But instead of knowing how to do it right, instead of just doing something, I think when it comes to parenting, that's one of those things that if there was a book, if there was a manual,
Yeah.
but if you have somebody that has been that gone through it, like my oldest kid is 33. So I'm not listening to somebody who got a 10-year-old
Yeah.
tell me how to deal with my 33-year-old. You
Mm.
need somebody who's already gone through that can tell you, okay. Like I always tell people, sometimes they get offended. I tell them that, hey, right now you just stupid in your 20s. I've been
Mm.
stupid in my 20s. I've been stupid in my 30s. Now I'm stupid in my 40s, about to pass them up. But everybody has to go through their little stupid phase.
Yeah.
And not stupid as in uneducated, but as in not knowing exactly what to do. So when you're going through that phase, you have to have somebody that has gone through it to listen to.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Chris, what you got, brother?
I would say that men have trouble asking for help for anything because of the overwhelming, overarching responsibility, for lack of a better term, for us to produce. And if we
Yeah.
can't produce, then we're seen as less than. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Like knowing that you can ask for help and it not be held over your head when you do is something that we as men need to learn and understand that it's out there.
Mm.
You
I
understand
like
what I'm
that.
saying?
I do.
So I guess that would be it. Just asking for help, period, for anything. You understand what I'm saying? Because, like I said, the overbearingness of the of needing to be able to produce kind of keeps us feeling like that if we can't produce and if we can't do it on our own, then we can't do it because nobody's going to be out there to help us.
Absolutely. I love it. I like that. And here's why I like what you said so Parker. So what you said, because it tied directly into what Roland's talking about. I have not only been in that position of what you're talking about, right? But I've also witnessed it as well that as a father, I just didn't know who I could go to ask certain questions, to ask those questions to. That's the other piece, right? Not knowing like a good source of usable information. That was one of my stumbling blocks. Sure, I met great people who had, who appeared to have great relationships with their children and things of that nature. But how do you, being militant, right? And I'm using that term intentionally, being militant. How do you? And I'm gonna take Michael R. Haynes. I'm gonna take your topic here, brother, because I think you're correct. How do you, as a father, understand how to turn the emotions on and turn them off? Because you guys, being former military guys, we don't really show a whole lot of emotions at work. You know what I'm saying? It's like, do what I say because that's what I told you to do. And then when you go home, you look at your kids and you tell your kids, do what I say because that's what I told you. You see what I'm saying? So it's just trying to understand how to balance that, balance the emotions of, being a soldier. I'm sorry about that, being a full-time soldier, and then coming home and trying to turn that off and just be like a empathetic father, a empathetic husband, or whatever that looks like. So just dealing with the overwhelming ebbs and flow of manhood from the perspective of being a father, from the perspective of being a career soldier, from the perspective of being a friend, like we talked about previously, right? Now, from the perspective of managing a household, because I think Mike is right. Mike, I hope you don't mind me giving you a short title there. He talked about the emotions. Absolutely. Learning how to let them out constructively is a huge challenge, not just constructively, but knowing when is the perfect time to tap into a certain emotion, especially if you have girls. So I like what he brought to the table. Thank you, sir. Again, everybody in the chat, again, thank you. Welcome. Continue to share it with your friends, share it on Facebook, share it with people who you think will benefit from this very important discussion, because this is good. Chris, I thought it looked like you was about to say something just now, brother.
That piece that Mr. Hayes put out there, there's a deeper part of that. We have to understand that we're allowed to have emotions from the beginning,
Mm,
because we have been told that we're not allowed to feel. We're just supposed to take whatever life throws at us and just internalize it and just get over it. And we're not robots.
yeah,
But in mainstream media and in mainstream society, that's how we're viewed. And if we
yeah,
show any kind of emotion about anything that isn't aggressive, it's seen as less than. You know
mm,
what I'm saying? Like if we cry because we're going through something, we're considered a punk. We're
yeah,
considered soft. And that's something that needs to change as a whole. We have to learn that we are allowed to have these emotions. We're not allowed to act emotional, but we are allowed to feel.
yeah.
And we have to recognize what we feel, how we feel, and figure out a way to maneuver without acting on the feeling.
Mm, I like that.
Uh,
I like that.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead real quick. We're gonna get to your
I think
continue.
that's
I got you.
twofold, because I think a lot of us have been raised by a bunch of women, our grandmothers, our big ma, our me ma, aunties and sisters, older cousins, and then we're taught by women in school, because I think I might have had 3 male teachers my whole school career. And what happens is you become I was in a house full of women. So when you had a boo boo, oh, let me kiss your boo boo. And then they told you all little things like, oh, you're going to be a lady killer. Oh, you're going to be,
Mm,
so what they do is they push you into a position where you the so-called man of the house, but they make you into kind of a do boy.
yeah.
And now a lot of us have become too emotional to
Mm,
where some of us, like me, going military route, you shut the emotions off. So it's like you either on this hand or that hand, where you have either too little or too much. We need to have it to where it's okay for men to cry. It's okay. Like I told y'all, I will hug my grandbabies. I kiss my boys, and people be like, "Don't kiss that boy. It's my boy."
yeah.
I ain't kissing him in the mouth and all that other stuff, but I'm letting them know affection from a man is okay in the right fashion. And we need to stop allowing society to dictate to us what our men should be.
Mm,
Because back in the day, hey, you had to have on flannel out there chopping wood and all this other stuff. And you give mama the check, and then it turned now men are, it's 50-50. I tell people I don't do the 50-50,
Right.
because 50-50 means that I'm only giving 50% of me. That's what it means to me. I'm only giving 50% of myself.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting 50% from you. And that takes the providership away from me and puts it on us. And
Yeah.
I think that when it comes to my job is to make life easier for the woman so that whatever I provide, she can make it happen with the kids.
Mm. I
That's
like that.
how I see it.
No, I like that. I like that. And again, I want to make sure because as you're listening, everybody that's listening, remember the topic of the discussion is, for us just to express and just it's okay to ask for help. And so, as you're listening to these expressions, as you're listening to some of the struggles that men have gone through throughout the years, that all of us have experienced, I think the idea is for us to understand for men, those young men, parents also set the conditions for them to ask for help as well. They need to know that they can ask you for help. And I think for me, as an older father now, I go to my kids and I just kind of set the conditions. Is there something on your mind? How can I help you? Is there anything I can make easier for you in your life? What does that look like? So I want them to ask questions. They may not necessarily get the answer they're looking for, but I want them to ask questions, right? So I can kind of help them with that. Uncle Junior, I kind of kept you in the balance for a minute, brother. Go ahead. You got the floor.
Um, yeah, I was looking at life, business, and kind of not knowing things. I think sometimes as we start to age, we get to a certain level to where we kind of think we know everything. And I think men sometimes struggle with knowing that they don't know everything. And because they don't know that they don't know everything, they don't know that they need to get some help. So I got some people that I know, and it's kind of like they were plateaued. It was kind of um like they say one thing, but they're not really there,
Yeah.
right? But they don't recognize that they're not there, and they think that they're up here, but they're really not. And yes, it is subjective. But at the same time, I think that um sometimes it can hinder men because they don't know what they don't know. And that kind of sort of goes back to what Chris always talked about, or he's mentioned before, is that, you don't know what you don't know, and how, like, he didn't know certain things for a whole bunch of years, and he's just now getting exposed to certain information. So I think that's one of the biggest struggles that I see with men is that they just don't know information.
Yeah.
And because they don't know it, they struggle in their life, they struggle in their businesses, they struggle in their relationships. And that's why I think it is important for men to recognize to try to associate or try to seek out men who may know more than you, or men who in different sectors of business or something like that, just to learn from them. You know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
kind of how that's what I think.
No, that's good. That's good, and I'm glad you said that. And I think it's important when we hear things of that magnitude because you're absolutely right, and that kind of goes back to my initial thought, like help me develop this blueprint of life because I don't know what I don't know. Let me ask you this, and I want not just focus on you. I want everybody to kind of chime in, and then I want to kind of get after some of these questions that are being posed out here. You know, how does a young man that doesn't know what he don't know, how do they broach that? Like, how do I broach that question? Because keep in mind, I got this thing, especially because I'm young, I got this thing called ego, and it's breathing down my neck. So how do I broach that topic, and who do I broach it with?
I
I
don't know.
guess
Hmm.
no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I don't know. I think and that's why sometimes I think it in a sense is partly, I'm not taking anything off of them, and I'm gonna get back to it. But I think it's partly that's where we come in as the older generation, as creating platforms, creating spaces, putting information out there in people's hands, so they can have access to the information. And I think I think it's more so. I don't know. I don't know how do you find out stuff that you don't know, because like for me, I just kind of fell upon things.
Yeah.
Like I got into all of this stuff is crazy. Like I'm gonna tell you how I ended up over here. It's crazy, right? So I ended up over here in this man space, kind of sorta, off of a Kevin Samuels clip. The whole clip that went what was the one he had? The main one that went viral. I know you know it, Chris. What is it? Um
The average at best one.
Average at
Where
best.
he was, yeah, where he was talking to the 30-year-old single mother who was a business owner who called in on the wrong night and tried to turn the show into what she
Yeah,
wanted it to be, and he went
yeah,
off. I applauded
yeah.
him for that. Thank you. Rest in peace, Godfather.
So I saw the clip like on TikTok or something, and then I saw a couple more of these clips, and then I was just like, they bashing this dude. Then I started watching a lot of content. Then through him, I started following other different people on these certain different topics and stuff like that. So that's how I got introduced to Sana. Excuse me. That's how I got introduced, and that's kind of how I ended up over in this space, is wanting to be more of an advocate for men, was because I didn't know, and now that I got the information, it's just like that, along with just even finding my purpose and stuff like that, would really kind of help me to get over here. So that's why, like, had that video not went viral, like I think I would be over here, but I don't know. So I think it's important that we, create a space for these conversation platforms exactly like this. Um, and as far as those guys, like, when you see him, click on it and dig a little bit deeper. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
clip is only a clip. You know what I mean? There's always a whole lot more context to it. So I went looking for the context. So
Very nice. Very nice. Brothers, what else you got?
Well, I'm looking at the comments, and I think I don't know. I don't want to miss Keys. I just say that because I don't want to mispronounce her first name, Lisa or Lisa. I don't know, but
Lisa.
she had, and I think she was mentioning something about what I had said
Hmm.
about making the boys do boys, and what I was saying was how we don't assess our young men responsibilities. What we do is we will do the task for them. We will uh, kiss their boo boos. We will have them up under us. And when the male child is consistently up under his mother, he tends to mimic her more than he would his father, more than he would a man. And not saying he's all these derogatory terms. Somebody might say sissified and all that other stuff, but he becomes softer. He doesn't want to work. And when I was growing up, that's one thing. I'm glad I was raised by my great grandmother because she made me go outside. And like when it came, we had a garden. I had to do the digging and the tilling and all that other stuff. So she had chores for me that I had to do. Nowadays, they've done away with chores. Not you necessarily, but a lot of the ones I see. I got 9 grandsons, and my daughters, I'm glad they are receptive to me. They're receptive to me helping rear their children because they don't know. And they're the baby's fathers, they aren't old enough to really know because they pretty much just out here making babies themselves. They don't really know how to be men. And when it comes to being a man, that's something you learn over time. So the do boy term wasn't necessarily directed at everyone, but I think that the way we protect our children, especially with the police violence and all these other things that go on now, the women, they hold them close, and sometimes they hold them too close. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, it looked like you did, because she said that she's agreed. So thank you for that detailed explanation. Chris, what you got, brother?
Um, as far as um the younger boys breaching the ego of asking,
Yeah, how
that
do we?
honestly,
Yeah,
It's starting now. It's starting to become quote unquote mainstream with a whole lot of pushback, but we're creating the spaces where they can actually come and listen to men talk about men stuff.
Yeah.
We really don't have a lot of that. We really don't have a lot of spaces that are out there that aren't invaded by, if that, and that's for lack of a better term, that aren't invaded by the women and pushing what they think we should be instead of acknowledging what society needs us to be.
Hmm. I like it.
We just now got here. It just now became cool. Kevin Samuel started it. Andrew Tate started it. The whole quote unquote manosphere started pushing men becoming men, because to keep it real, we need more men out here. Without the men, society falls.
Yeah.
Without the
So
men, the women aren't protected, and that's what we're going to, because we're going to a society that we push women forward when, and they should be lifted up. But what we don't see what's happening from the backside is when you push women forward, that's fine. But when you tear down your men, you're tearing down your protection. Not saying women can't protect. I know everybody see the movie with How to Get Away with Murder on there and everything, but the warrior shouldn't be the woman. The warrior should be the man. And we have fixed in our heads in this society that, well, I can do whatever you can do. Yes, you can. I can nail a doggone nail in with a wrench, but that's not what it's designed to do.
I love it. No lies detected. Again, just want to make sure that we're staying on task here. And I think all of this, and I don't want to take away from anything that was said because you guys are spot on. But I think all of this is just a microcosm of one big concern. And again, that concern is just when a young man just does not know, right? And I think Mr. Hayes, and again, brother, I appreciate you, man, because you was just loading up the comments with some outstanding comments. He put out something that I thought was very interesting. He says, "Seek a mentor." Now, here's why I
that
like
speaks
what.
to me. That speaks to me. You know why?
Why's
Because
that?
I met Uncle Junior, and through Uncle Junior, I met Vic, and I met you. You and I talk on the regular. Me and Uncle Junior talk on the regular. I can inbox Vic right now and he'll respond. I can text Vic right now and he'll respond. All because I asked, "Hey, I'm I need help doing this. I don't know where I am. I don't know where to start. How can you help me?" And then y'all fell into my life, and I've been here ever since. That speaks to me. You have to seek it out, and you have to put yourself in a position where even if you seek it out, you have to be in the position where the person you're seeking out is willing to help you, because they see you trying to help yourself. They're not going to give you nothing. They may help you along the way, but there's steps that you need to take too. Present yourself in a position where a mentor will actually take you on, instead of trying to just get it for nothing, because ain't nobody gonna give you nothing if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, at least to start something. That speaks to me. Shout out to Mr. Hayes.
Listen, if you missed what he just said, I'm telling you, those were golden nuggets because he went exactly where I was going. I will be honest with you. I never heard of a mentor when I was growing up. Yeah, we had like people in the neighborhood. You had like the YMCA, and you had like these little programs per se. But I mean, I don't know what that was. I didn't know what that was. I didn't even know if it was a good thing to do. I first heard of a mentor when I became a seasoned man. And at that point, I said, you know what? That's what I need to do. I need to be a mentor because I know that there are some young men out there who struggled at being a man just like I did. And here's the deal, we're so prideful. I'm not going to tell you I'm struggling. I'm just going to figure it out and mess up en route. So those are facts. If you don't believe me, pin a man in the corner and ask him to be honest with you. Most men screw it up and figure it out en route. And we try to learn from our mistakes the best we can and avoid ridicule at the same time. That's what life looked like for most men. And so when we start talking about this particular individual, the mentor is value added. And Chris just said a mouthful. We need to be in the space mentally and emotionally just to even humble ourselves to ask another person. Because like Chris said, I didn't know what to ask for. I don't know what to do next. And Chris, I hope you don't mind me sharing. Chris said, "This is a lot. Where do I start?" And he was right.
I'm open about that. I'm
Yeah.
open about that. I don't know what I don't know. I wasn't taught any of this. I didn't come up with any of this. I didn't have the military background that y'all had. I didn't have anybody in my corner that I could actually tell me this stuff that I could actually learn from. So I had to ask.
Yeah.
I knew I was missing something and I didn't know where to get it. So I just put it out there.
Yeah.
And here
And
I
you-
am.
And you knew it's just an innate thing in men to seek other men and to gravitate towards them. That's why the gangs are so prevalent. That's why when we go off to college, we get into fraternities because we have frat brothers. We have that bond, that communion, and if we can get that before they get to the gangs or before the gangs get to them,
Right.
then they can. When you teach a young boy about who he is before he gets to school, he's not worried about what's going on. He's not worried about what somebody else says. But when he doesn't know, he'll seek validation from other people that look like him. Like, oh, that's what we do. Oh, I talk to women like that. Oh, if I'm talking to the girls and I'm doing, that's where you get the teenage pregnancy because he's learning from his peers and not from somebody who has some years.
Yeah. Great point. All fantastic points. And Uncle Junior, you started this. I want to make sure I put that out there.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback and kind of off of what what the last person said, and kind of goes into this at the same time. This question is, I think that we need to kind of sort of make it the norm and teach young men that this is what we do. Growing up, this is what you do. You seek out mentorship early. I think one of the ways that kids do get some sort of mentorship is in sports. So I'm always a firm believer in pushing kids, male or female, into some sort of sports because you do get some sort of mentorship there. And I also think that you should get some sort of mentorship outside of that. Like you said, it wasn't until I was a seasoned adult too before I started hearing about mentorship. Like I never grew up hearing the term mentorship. Like I didn't know what it was. And like I didn't even know all them different programs that you talked about. The only thing I knew about was Boys and Girls Club. But I thought it was probably something different than what it actually is. So I think that's one thing, is we got to figure out a way to how to get it down there and, to that level.
Yeah.
And we got to make it the norm to we got to make it the norm to seek mentorship. Say, hey, growing up, you need to do this, you need to do this, and you need to get a mentor. Like
Absolutely.
we need to make it common practice, just like everything else.
Yeah.
They need to be on the checklist too.
Absolutely. And to your point, I kind of want to lean on that a little more and then kind of touch on what Brother Gaddis says here, because this is a perfect question, right? I didn't learn about mentorship at a certain point. I mean, yeah, military had mentorship, but that's like part of a job thing. You do that because we want to make sure that we don't miss out on the next possible paycheck. So we do that. And then you hit a certain point where you're like, you know what? I'm starting to buy into this thing. Like this is starting to become interesting to me. Like I'm buying into it. But then it got to a certain point where one of my old bosses, we met in the contracting room and he introduced me to something. He said, hey, you and I kind of think alike. He said, check this out. See what you think about it. And I looked at him like, I like that. This is interesting. I've been thinking about this just the other day. And so next thing you know, I'm at a John Maxwell conference. And then next thing you know, I'm at looking at some Tony Robbins stuff. I'm looking at some Les Brown stuff. Like all of this stuff is information that's phenomenal. My goal is to take all of that stuff and package it and put it in the usable data for young men. Because let's be honest, at the level they're talking, it is overwhelming. I'm just going to be honest with you. It is over freaking
It's
whelming.
overwhelming to me, and I'm in my 40s just now getting this information.
Yeah.
Imagine somebody
It's a
half
lot.
my age doing this.
Right.
Because it's a lot, man. Like to get to 47, like it's a lot, man. Like it's one thing lead down to something else. It's micro things,
Right.
little small things that make huge issues, or make small things, saving $1 a day, or $100 a month. I mean, for year after year, the compound interest this is chess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a marathon.
it's a marathon. The good thing about it is that it is chess. And by it being chess, you're allowed to make some mistakes. You know what I mean? You can mess up some. You can lose. You can lose a rook or a bishop, and you know what I mean. You can send a pawn down to get a queen back. So you can still win, even though it looks like you may be down. So that's for my chess analogy for some chess people out there.
You
Like the
play
chess
chess?
analogy.
No, I ain't even gonna get into that.
Yeah, but
Like the chess analogy.
that's exactly how life is.
Yeah.
It's just like chess. People say it, but they just say it's like chess. It's a long game, but chess can be fast too. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Chess don't have to be a long game.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is. It takes a long time to learn all of this stuff, but when you learn it all, you find out what the cheat codes are along the way. And you can
Absolutely.
have these cheat codes down along the way. Like if you learn that, hey, I need to start saving $500 a month at 19 and start doing it at 19 versus start doing it at 45, it's gonna make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just getting the information earlier in life.
Yeah. And just want to make sure I'm getting back to Mr. Gaddis' statement. This is what I believe, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong or whatever that looks like. Listen, the way that we spread stuff like this is everybody who is listening, share it with their kids, right? Share it with your nephews, share it with your nieces as well, because they need to understand this. Like, share it with your family members. Like, this is how we get the word out. Sure, we can get on here every Friday night and talk to you guys, but if you're the only guys we're talking to, then all of us can continue to have great conversations like we have. Let's get this number up to 100 every Friday night. That's how we get the word out. We spread the word. We've been saying it for years. Each one teach one, right? Why not bring one to where it's actually being taught? So you can say, yeah, this is what I was trying to tell you. Like, you got 4 men who are sitting right here and dedicating time to them every Friday night. If I had this when I was growing up, I promise you I wouldn't have made a lot of mistakes in life that I did.
And find somebody locally. You got to have somebody that can, hey, hug their neck, that can, hold a hand and walk them through it. And you can't wait till you get to, as Chris said, in his 40s to start. It's like, if I'm sure all of us play sports on here. If we were to talk about a go route or a curl or this, that, and other, you didn't learn that in your 40s. You learned that early. So now you know what it is, and you can put other pieces. So when the X's and O's come together and they say, hey, I need you to run a skinny post or this, that, and the other, you already know. And that's how we have to do with these young boys and with life. And it's not just sports, because I have a grandson. And out of all my grandsons, we know that little joke ain't going to play nothing. We know.
You already know.
He pick up the ball, kick the ball, whatever. Like, no, he ain't gonna play. But he's smart. So I never want to get, even the ones that play ball, I want them to realize that your way out ain't just in a ball.
Right.
Ain't just running up a field. Because you can entertain people all day long. But if you don't have anything here, somebody else gonna take the money that you do earn.
Right. I love it. I love it. Listen, I want to continue on because we're eating up time fast, man. Because this conversation is go.
It's
so
a
good.
deep conversation, but it's a necessary one.
It is a very deep and necessary conversation. Premarital advice.
Oh boy,
Do you
let me
believe?
shut up because I don't know nothing about this. So let me shut up.
No, but so listen. You're talking to 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think between the three of us, we all got one failed, right? But we learned a lot.
Yeah.
And in your opinions, and Chris, you can chime in on this as well, because like you said, you've never been married. So this is a great piece for you. In everybody's opinion, do you think you would have benefited having a pretty decent understanding what marriage looked like early? Like asking your father or asking your uncles or whatever that looked like. Like, can you help me understand what marriage is? Like, who am I supposed to be in a marriage? What are my responsibilities? Like, in your thoughts, do you think that would have been beneficial?
Absolutely. Right off the rip. Absolutely.
I think if you see a marriage that actually works, not just because I know I didn't find out some of my uncles and aunties weren't married until one of them died.
Oh,
and then you're like, oh, they weren't married, But so if you see a marriage that actually works, then you can have something to mimic. Then you can have something to look forward to. But if you don't see it, if somebody
Mhm.
just telling you about it, because my father, he constantly want to give me advice. My
Mm.
father and my mother, they've been married since I'm about to be 50 years old next year. They've been married a long time, but they ain't been together in 40 of those years.
Man, I thought you was already 50.
Let
I'm
me tell
joking, man.
you.
My bad, man. Go ahead.
No, but I think that, yeah, if we had those examples,
Mhm.
definitely beneficial.
This is why I started my YouTube channel. Because I wanted to know what it's like to be a husband, and I want to know what it's like to be a father. And like I always say, when you want to know something, you go where the people are doing it and you ask questions. All of my friends, like locally, are either married or are about to get married.
Mm.
So, and they're all fathers. So, why not ask them, hey, what's it like being a father?
Yeah.
What's it like being a husband? What are the characteristics? What is facilitating the role of father and husband look like? How does that
Mm.
work? You know what I'm saying? I ask all of those questions to all of my friends, and they all give me different answers, but it all starts at base level, recognizing that they're not in it alone, and it's not about the husband, it's not about the wife, it's about the unit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ask those questions all the time on my channel.
Absolutely. And,
And
and
I
and I'm
think,
glad you shared that because, like you said, you're not married. You've never been married. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ro.
Nope.
no, I see Tawami, he had said something in there about how we teach the men and women differently. And I think they have to learn differently, but it's like a quarterback will learn what quarterbacks do. Wide receiver learn what he has to do. And I think we have to teach them how to work as a unit, because as long as we allow them to learn separately of what this is what you do, this is what you do, then what they try to do is come into a relationship like I did. Well, I'm this and I'm that. And we
Mm.
try to browbeat our way into telling the other person what to do off of
Right.
what we know we should do
Right.
or think we should
I love it. I love it. See, I like that so much because I think you're absolutely right. What you don't know, you're just going to make it up en route. And what you make up 9 times out of 10 is not going to be right. And I like what Lisa Keys said. She said, there is no failure, just lessons. And I agree 100%. I think sometimes we look at some of the things that we did not do well and we look at it as failure. That kind of prevents us from wanting to try again. So what we need to do is go back and self-reflect and learn what we did not do well. Stop pointing the finger at the other person first, right? Learn what we did not do well, and then seek to fix that. So shout out to Lisa for saying that. I agree 100%. Chris, shout out, give everybody a YouTube channel real quick. We got a person designed to follow you simply because you guys talk about marriage so much over there. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, my YouTube channel is called Across the Table with Christopher McClellan. It's
That's
where I
it.
talk to that's it. It's where I talk to my fellas about marriage and fatherhood. And some of them are entrepreneurs, some of them work in blue collar jobs. I'm talking to the average dudes. I'm talking to the average men, not these mainstream media cats out here that are giving this false reality of what a marriage and what life and dating is supposed to be. I'm talking to the core of the I'm talking to the men who actually build the infrastructure to keep those people in mainstream media popping. Those are the men that I talk to at ground level, and I ask them specifically, what's it like being a husband? What's it like being a father? A lot of them have blended families, so I ask how that dynamic work. And I also ask them how they are able to funnel all of those things and still hold the positions that they hold or the businesses that they run. How can they do all of that? Because I want to do that one day. You understand what I'm saying? And I didn't have that coming up. I didn't have anybody to look at to show me any of this. The only real marriage that I saw, they didn't even live in the same house.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying? So I'm trying to figure out it, and I know that's not normal. That's not normal. At least I hope it's not. So I'm asking, and the men that I'm asking are my age and under. So I'm speaking from our age bracket how this works, because because I know the stuff that I see on this here app and on all the other social media platforms. I know that's not real life. Can't
Yeah.
be.
I love it. So shout out again, Chris, from across the table, also the other side of the table, right? So what I do is at the end of the
The
show,
other side of the
the other
table.
side of the table. You always the other side of the table with me, brother. So what I'm gonna do at the end of the show, I'll put his link in there. I'll put Uncle Junior's in there as well because Uncle Junior does a great job on Wednesday. And we again,
Elevated
we have
dialogue.
our elevated dialogue again. What we do is all of us different platforms, but again, this is what mentorship looks like, kind of like what Mr. Hayes said. I want to go back and touch on what he said as well, because again, this brother's dropping nuggets, man. So
Yeah,
shout out to
he looking off my notes.
that's you know, shout out to Michael Hayes,
All
man.
in my notes.
Yeah, shout out to Michael Hayes, man. You're welcome back anytime you want, brother. So part of this conversation, and he put this up here after I brought in the premarital conversation, right? And I think that's really what that's all about. Because if my son was to come to me and ask me about marriage, first of all, I'll be honored that he asked that question. But part of a large portion of that conversation would be about him because I believe that you cannot pour from an empty cup. And we started off in this conversation, men are providers and protectors, right? So they are proactive in both of those arenas. So part of that proactiveness is actually being the person that they need to be so that they can provide for their families and protect their families. So in order to provide, you have to build your brand, make your brand worth attaching yourself to. So that's kind of like what it is. So, man, I love this conversation. Again, shout out to everybody in the chats, man. You guys are doing an awesome job tonight. Again, subscribe, send it out to everybody else. Let them listen to it as well. And make sure that you follow us back here next week as well. One more point before we shout out, man, before we take out, man. And I want to kind of put
Oh,
it
you
out.
about to close?
No, not just yet. Not
Oh,
just yet. I got one more point I
I
want
want
to
to
put
chime
out there.
in on this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of adding on to a solution. Like I don't think that actually let me get back at it. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. So when the question that I asked was about pre-marriage, like could you have benefited at an early age having a conversation with your dad, with your uncle, whatever, about what marriage looked like?
Okay. Yes. I could have benefited. And since that time, I have came to the understanding, um, and I've kind of learned some things that kind of help combat that. I mean, it's just like Michael Hayes said, before before you get married and even before you start dating, you guys have to know who you are as a man, right? That's the first thing. You have to know who you are as a man. After you know who you are as a man, you have to know what role that you're going to play in said marriage. And then you have to know what type of role you want, the type of what woman you need to know what role you're going to have the woman play in your life too. And then those are the women that you need to seek out. And then once you seek it out, those roles need to be clearly defined and agreed upon between both parties. You know what I mean? So first thing is you gotta know who you are. If you don't know who you are, in my opinion, you shouldn't even be talking about marriage.
Very good. I love it. I love it. And again, there's nothing wrong with personal preference. We just can't take our personal preference and judge another person by it.
Yep.
I want to make sure I'm saying that. We never make another person feel bad for
Yep.
not being part of your preference. And just be honest. Be honest. If you have a personal preference, say that.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Last point, and then we're going to jump into closure because I really want to bring this to the table because I've heard this time and time again. And I'm going to kind of put it out there and I want you guys to just run with it. Um, real men don't, or real men. What are your thoughts when you hear somebody make a reference to real men don't do this or real men do this? I'm kind of curious because I have my own ideas, but I really want to hear you guys.
I know one thing is very subjective. Um, and a lot of times people are probably projecting something when they say those things. Go ahead.
I talk all day about this. I think statements like that, this is just my personal opinion. It comes from someone who has been scorned by a male.
Oh,
And so they will project that off and say, real men don't treat women like this. Real men don't do. And they're talking from a hurt perspective because they aren't healed yet. They may know some things that men should and shouldn't do, but usually those comments come from somewhere else. And yeah, I had to change my name because everybody got monikers and stuff, and that was just my name. But yeah, and that's from Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. But yeah, if you didn't know.
Oh my God, that was nice. I like it. I love it. All
I
right, so it comes from a hurt
believe
place. Go ahead, Chris.
I believe that most of the time when we hear that, it's coming from someone who thinks that they know what we should be based off what they think that they want instead of what they actually need from us. They're trying to force us to do what they think we should do instead of understanding that we have specific things that we have to do as men. And sometimes you are not going to like it. It is what it is. We are built differently. We have two different sets of roles and we need to fulfill them accordingly. Especially, and I firmly believe that you cannot tell me what a real man is unless you are a man yourself. No woman roaming this planet can tell a man how he needs to move and how he needs to be in the skin that he's in the gender that he identifies as in today's society. You don't know. Stop doing that.
And if you think about it, just listening to it, if I say real men don't or real women don't, it's a passive aggressive insult.
It's a shaming tactic.
Yeah, it's saying, well, you aren't a real whatever it is that comes behind it. And I want you to do what I want you to do. So real men don't do this. So I'm not a real man because you saying I did that. So, passive aggressiveness will cause fights.
Uncle Junior, what you got, man?
What about when men use it?
I was gonna go there, but
what about when men use it? I think. Oh, I'm gonna shut up. Go ahead.
No, you good.
I think when men use it, remember I told you, 9 sisters, 5 daughters, women teachers, we grew up under feminization. Society teaches you to be docile. Society teaches men toxic masculinity and all this other stuff. Not when you're talking about abusing women, but when you're talking about doing something they don't want. So what a lot of us have feminine behaviors because of how we were raised. And then now it's not looked at as feminine behavior because the feminine want to be masculine, not all, but
a good majority. Actually, you know what? It's not even all women. It's the women that represent women in mainstream media that the women that they don't represent are not telling to shut up. Let me stop because I could go on.
I think sometimes when men use it, like I will use it, and I think if I think that if we had a conversation and one of us said real men are this, I think we may use it from a point of maybe a teaching point, not necessarily literally. But I think sometimes when I hear those people, you look at the manosphere in certain spaces, those people will try to project and determine what a real man is and what a real man is not based off of whatever criteria or standards that they determined on their own. I think there are some baseline things that represent what a man is. But when I hear, a real man this or a real man that, I'm just like, man, get out of here with all of that. So a lot of times I don't feel like it's coming from a healthy place.
Yeah.
It's coming from a place of pandering because they need to sell books and they need YouTube views and they need Facebook views. So they'll tell you what they think a man should be according to the people that are actually spending the money to watch them. It ain't really, it's not real, man. This social media stuff, it's not real. It's not real. It's not authentic.
Yeah. Listen, I asked this question. So first of all, I knew it was going to get these brothers amped up. Now you guys see why I love them. Like they're honest. They're just honest, right? And I want to make sure I set the conditions.
Don't do me like that. Do not do me like that.
I want to make sure you got. I set the condition for understanding. This was not in no shape, form, or fashion to kind of point out one group of people over the other. In my humble opinion, I am not qualified to talk about what a real woman is. If I'm being completely honest, I can only tell you how wonderful my mother is. That's it. So when it comes down to raising, I can't teach my daughters how to be a woman. Just gonna be honest with you. If I'm just being completely honest, I will teach them how to be a good person. But when it comes down to woman training, I need a woman to do that. When it comes down to raising a young boy, a woman can't teach a young boy how to be a man. She can teach that young boy how to be a good person, but we need that father to do that. So I asked that question because I believe that's one of the things we need to get away from. We need to get away from opposite sexes telling the other one like a real whatever, we'll do this or won't do that. Right? Men need to stop telling women real women will do this, and women need to stop telling I'm sorry, women need to stop telling men that real men would do this. And this is the point, because what we're not realizing is that whenever you tell a young man that, especially if he is not in a healthy place emotionally or psychologically, you're only damaging a damaged product. That's not good. That's not healthy. And you don't know what's behind the veil. Let's be completely clear. You don't know what's behind the veil of every person. No one knows what any person is going through, especially if they're very good at hiding it. So let's be clear across the board. Let's not pander one another, like Chris said, right? Let's make sure that we're seeing where we can help. Go ahead, Ro. I'm sorry.
No, I was just looking at the question. Michelle Ray asked, "What's the definition of a man?" And I think now you will have various definitions, but my personal definition, because I had to write it down, because that mine ain't sharp as it was. But I said that a man, rather, not a real man. A man is a male that has grown or matured into a level of responsibility for himself, his actions, and everything that surrounds him. Period. Yes, I said a male because now you have people who say, I identify. I can identify as a doggone train stop, but don't mean the train go come my way. So I don't agree with the whole identification thing. That's just me, and I don't have to. And I think that's where we go wrong. We allow other people to place what they think and what they believe on us, and then we say, "Well, it ain't that bad. It's okay." And then next thing you know, we accept everything because we've allowed the standards to change.
Yeah. And I think the reason why I brought this to the table is because the more you beat a person up about what a real man, what a real man, what a real man, that person shies away from going and asking for the help that they actually need. We don't realize how much damage we're bringing to the table by doing that. So I only wanted to bring that to the table first and foremost to get you guys worked up a little bit. And secondly,
I can't say this though.
go ahead.
A real man knows when to ask for help.
Mm,
A real man knows when he needs something and he has to humble himself enough to go get it. I can say that because humbling yourself to go ask for help might be the strongest thing that you could ever do as a man, because it shows that you fell short and you need to go outside of yourself to go get it. I
So,
can I can say that.
who determines what a real man is?
I guess when you are mature enough to accept that responsibility for everything, and you take the onus, because I look at whatever happens in my bubble, I'm responsible for it. My bubble, whoever messes up in my bubble, whatever happens, if somebody fails in my bubble, it's my responsibility. I have to get it right. I can't say, well, that's your part. I never shun the responsibility portion.
right.
I think we run from responsibility because we've been taught to that it's okay. We can't run from the responsibility or the being at fault. Like everybody want to play Adam in the garden. It was that woman you gave. No, I
Mm,
can't. No, you gave me the responsibility, so I got to stand up.
I'm
I
glad you
can't.
said that.
I like it.
I'm glad you said that because a lot of people think Adam got punished for eating the fruit, and that wasn't the case. Adam's charge was the garden. Adam got punished because he didn't slap that piece of fruit out of Eve's hand and take her to the divine creator and say, please forgive her because she allowed a creature who can't even walk to talk her into doing some dumb shit. That's why
Well,
he got punished.
that's well, no, I got to jump
Yeah,
in on
yeah,
this
yeah.
one.
We're gonna reach out there and lay hands on the brother right now. Calm down,
But
calm down, bro. I got you. I got you. Though. Go ahead, man.
yeah, because if you look at it, Adam got punished, and everybody thereafter has been punished because of disobedience, because he instructed Adam. That's why didn't nothing happen until he ate. So when he ate, don't eat this. Yes, she ate. It's his charge over her to direct and teach. He allowed that. But when he didn't do it, that means, hey, I'm listening to this woman more than I'm listening to the Most High. And I'm going to leave that until
Man, I
tomorrow.
just had this
Well,
conversation this
how
morning
come she didn't pay it? How come she didn't listen to him?
because we don't know that he told her. That was an assumption. You have to go and look at it like there is no doctrine that says that
Right.
he
You,
shared
you
that
can
information with her. So that's an assumption at
pull
that point.
straws out. But yeah.
Right. So and I'm just sharing that because that's one of my talking points that I talk about every now and again. So again, I just want to make sure, and I love this conversation because I think you guys are 100% correct when it comes down to this idea. I like what Mr. Hayes said. Again, the brother's hitting home runs all day, right? We should not allow society to depict what a man looks like. You see what I'm saying? That should be something that's passed from generation to generation. For me, I will say, because I think Uncle June, you asked the question, what does a rule, who determines that? For me, I determine that. I determine that as I matured, I don't have the perfect answer for everything. So I'm in a space where I'm continuously seeking to elevate, seeking to be more mature than I was last week, seeking to be more mature than I was last year. That to me is the mark of a real man, not feeling that they've reached the epitome of manhood, because you will never reach the epitome of manhood until you're reformed. So that's the place that's the thing that we got to understand. When we walk around ego forward, ego first, chest out, I see you, bro. But I probably won't follow you to the end of the street. Just being honest,
Yeah.
right? But again, when we start talking about these young men, the future, Whitney Houston, the prophet, she said it best, right? I believe the children are our future. Right? When we start talking about these young men, we need to pour into them more than we're doing right now. That's just a personal opinion. I know that there's a lot of people out there doing great and wonderful works, but we need to be more consciously aware of how much time we're spending developing young men so that, again, I have to stress this, so that these men can take their rightful place in society, being protectors, providers, teachers, trainers, things of that nature. And then later on, they become the mentors. And they get to mentor people like my grandson and Roland's grandson and Uncle Junior, soon to be your grandson, and Chris, your son, soon to come. Right? That's really how it should be. Like we have to leave generational awareness. We talk about generational wealth all the time, right? But we need to leave generational awareness. And what is that? That is what manhood looks like. So again, thank everybody for this great and wonderful conversation. Again, shout out to everybody in the chat. Michelle, Lisa, Michael, Tawami, you guys are just awesome, man. And we greatly appreciate you. I kept you guys for an hour, actually an hour and 15 minutes, man. You guys are amazing. I appreciate you allowing me to do that. Roland, you look like you got something on your mind, brother. What you got?
Yeah, because I think like the topic that we're on, I think sometimes we will try to make our marriage exactly like we see somebody with a good marriage, which so the husband wants the wife to do what that wife does, and she got to act like that, or you got to act like this. Not putting parameters from outside your household will help you in your marriage, because when you start, and I've been here where I say, well, such and such do this. And then the wife gonna say, well, take your blankety blank over to such and such house. So don't put parameters that's outside your house on what's inside your house, and you two grow together so that your bond can be strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I love it. I love it. Listen, I think what she is saying right here kind of ties into what you're saying. I think as time evolves, so does manhood as well. So when you look at manhood from the 60s, it looked different than what it looks like now. So great point. I appreciate you bringing that to the table. Listen, I kept you guys a little over tonight. I appreciate you guys allowing me to do that. This I mean, again, that's why I love you guys. You guys are amazing. I need one last thought for each of you about this particular topic. Men, it's okay to ask for help.
I'll start. um, and I'll start by saying that I have a PTSD diagnosis from the military, and I will say that in the military, one of the things that we often suffer with or struggle with, even as men, not just in the military but civilians as well, is going to get mental help. Um, so if I would like to add anything, last 2 cents is that you know do what you can in your life to eliminate as much stress as you can. Find you a mentor, find you a wolf pack, find you a group of guys that you can lean on, that you can talk to, that you can have a safe place to talk, to be able to get things off your chest. Some mature men, some men who are doing some things in life, not men that just sitting around and just going to listen. Somebody just sitting around playing games. Somebody who's doing something. Um, and then if you need some sort of mental health, go out and seek it, go out and get it. And don't be afraid to do so. We like to be man and beat our chest and ego. We talk about that ego thing again, and people don't want to go and do anything about it. So set that ego aside, go out there and get you some help. You'd be surprised at how far you can go when you just take care of your mind and you're a lot more focused and a lot more alert and a lot more, you can be a lot more productive with your life.
Man, that was good. Thanks, brother. Thank you for bringing that. Mental health is important. Make sure that we're focusing on that. And again, that is a constant work. It's not just a one-time thing. Ro, what you got, brother?
I think coming from a medical background, what we're talking about, when as men, when you feel something, when you know something's hurting, it's not going to stop hurting until one, you identify the problem, and then you seek out help for said problem. I think whatever that is, stop trying to tough it out. You ain't got to tough it out. You have people, you have resources, whatever it is. If you need to talk, if you need to go see a therapist, if you need to, whatever that pain is, you need to deal with it before the pain becomes a problem. And once it becomes a problem, you will try to mask it, but people around you will be able to see it. And then you walking around with a limp, and then you're worried about why people keep saying, "Well, what's wrong with you?" Because you look crazy, you walking crazy, and I'm identifying it, and you still trying to act like you're not walking crazy. So I think identifying your problems, your hurts, and whatnot, and seeking help will definitely help in that realm.
Absolutely. Chris, what you got, my friend?
Dear all fellas, it is not soft for you to go ask for help. It doesn't make you a punk. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you any less masculine than you already are. If anything, it proves that you can think beyond your ego and figure things out through other means. What do they call it? The mastermind. The what did Napoleon Hill call it? He called it the mastermind, where two heads can actually come together and build something bigger. Go find somebody that you trust, that looks like you and identifies as the same gender that you do, and that's walking in the same shoes that you have already walked in, and go ask them questions. And if you can't go find one, there are a bunch of professionals out there that can help you. BetterHelp.com might be the best website on the market right now because you can find a therapist anywhere in your area. Go seek help if you need it. It doesn't make you soft. It doesn't make you a punk. Go get it. You will thank your future self will thank you for doing it. That's all.
I love it. I love it.
Oh,
What?
and mamas, get out the way. Get out the way.
Listen, tonight.
Seriously, mamas, get out the way. Because there are things that boy is going to go through that he needs a man to show him. And unfortunately, you don't have the capability to do it. And it's not because you're less of a person or you're less of a parent. It's because you just don't have the tools because they weren't built inside of you. Let that boy seek out the help that he needs and let him get it from somebody that looks like him and get out the way. You go, his future self will thank you for that. And I'm out.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, man. I appreciate that. Listen, what's understood don't need to be explained, right? I'm gonna take a different approach. I would like to see the older generation be open, honest, and transparent so
Mm.
that you can actually be a space where you can inject into the younger generation. Give them valuable advice. Don't listen. I say that, but I really do mean it. Like we need to be open and honest. Look, we didn't do everything correct. I'd be the first person to tell you, pick something in my life, and I tell you I did it wrong about 4 times first before I got it right. Just being honest. I don't care what topic you want to talk about. You want to talk about the army? I screwed that up so many times. I screwed my way into success because I just messed it all the way up. Just being honest. No one had a perfect blueprint. Once I figured it out, I was good at it at that point on. It's the exact same thing for everything I did. I think the problem is a lot of times is that we carry the mantle of perfection and we want to teach from the perspective as though we never made the mistakes. So my challenge to us, our generation, the older generation, is to be open and transparent. Look, I made some of the same mistakes you guys are making right now. What I want to do is make it so that you make less of them. So I just want you to listen. I'm not going to force you to listen. And I think that kind of gets after what Tawami Gaddy was talking about earlier, right? If we stop fronting, that's the term I'm use, pretending like we got it all together, like we started out and we got it perfect the first time. No, I'll be the first person to tell you it took me 40 years to get a master's degree. But the idea is that I got it. That's it. So I'm not going to sit here and put the mantle of perfection on a child and say, once you graduate school, you got to go to college. No, because I didn't do it that way. So there's the blueprint doesn't have to be the exact same. I will urge you to go to college, but I'm not going to say if you don't do it as soon as you graduate high school, you're going to mess your life up. No. And I think a lot of times what we need to do, be open, be honest, give them the best advice. I learned that I should have done it earlier. So now that sounds different. You see what I'm saying? I should have done it earlier because once I sat back, I realized how much time I wasted all the way up to the point that I got finished. So now it looks different. It feels different to them because I'm being honest, I'm being transparent, and they don't think that, man, I have to do it like this lockstep for me to please them. And I think a lot of times what exists is that you have these young men and women out there and they're fearful that they're not pleasing their parent. And I can tell you from my experience, that's the one thing that's all I ever really want to do. All I ever really wanted at one point in time in my life, I'm be honest with you, is for my mother and my father to tell me that they were proud of me. That was it. That was it. So what we got to do is set the conditions to help them to understand that you don't have to do something for me to be proud of you. Me being your father is enough. That's the thing I think we're missing right now. So listen, again, thank you everybody for every comment that you made on the panel, everybody who's been making comments in the chat. I appreciate you guys, Tawami, Michelle, Michael, Sharina, great seeing you. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. Man, we appreciate you guys. Lisa, we appreciate you guys so much. We're going to be back here again next Friday. Please share it with as many people as you can. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, and share it so that the younger generation can actually get it. So we can get after what Tawami Gaddy was talking about. Share stuff like this on social media. Listen, we'll spend hours on TikTok looking at foolishness, but we won't spend 30, 45 minutes looking at stuff like this. Inject positivity into those young men and women. So, on behalf of my awesome panel, again, I love these guys, man, because they're so easy to work with. They take the words out of my mouth, right? So, on behalf of the panel, Roland from down the street, Chris from the other side of the table, and Uncle Junior, right? So, on behalf of these gentlemen, man, listen, thank you. Enjoy your weekend. Georgia Bulldogs playing Missouri. They're going to win this weekend. Roland, we don't care about Michigan, but we still love you anyway, brother. Shout out. We love you guys. Have a great week.